Let us resume our seats. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish to welcome you here as much as you'll be welcomed. My name is David Jeru. I am from Kenya. I'm a lecturer in one of the universities in Kenya called Egerton University. I'm also the chairman of the clinical medicine department at Egerton University. And I'm also a member and supporter of GACOPA and all the other bodies that we have. So I'll be moderating today with my co-host from Rwanda. She will introduce herself.
Good morning. Yes, I hope you can all tell that I'm from Rwanda. Yes, my name is Mignon Umurerwa, and I'm a final year student from Clinical Medicine and Community Health at University of Rwanda. And I'm here as the co-host to David, and I'm glad to be here with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Rwanda starts mentoring its people very early. I didn't know that she was a student. Thank you so much. I think we'll go straight to the program. But maybe before I invite, let me invite the registrar from Rwanda to welcome us officially to Rwanda, recognize the delegates and also our guests of honor. Mr. Registrar, sir.
Habari ya asubuhi. Yeah, this is East Africa. We should use Swahili. Maybe in a few years' time. Because that's a language that can bring us together, all of us, in the East African community. Yeah, thank you very much for the MC, for the time you give me to welcome all of you here in Rwanda. My name is called Retired Major Gasherebu Kazonda Damascene. I'm the registrar and CEO of Rwanda Allied Health Professions Council in Rwanda. And the Rwanda Allied Health Professions Council is a regulatory body that regulates all called allied health professions, which means which are not part of the Rwanda Medical Council, nursing, midwives, and pharmacy. So clinic officers fall under the profession that are regulated by Rwanda Allied Health Professions Council. The council exists since 2013. It is still young. Now, last year we're celebrating 10 years of many achievements, I can say. We've achieved many. Regulating more than 20 professions, not easy. Actually, it was the most complex, regulatory body we have in Rwanda. Before I continue to talk about the reason why we are here, let's first of all recognize all the delegation that are represented here from the East African community. Let's start with people from Burundi, participants from Burundi. You can stand up and just greet them. Have a seat. Thank you very much. We'll give you time to talk about your it's just now recognizing your presence here. Then after Burundi, let's see Kenya. Hakuna Matata. Yes, Kenya. I think there are some others are still coming. Those who arrived early in the morning. And then we have also Uganda. Thank you very much for Uganda. Can have a seat. We're waiting for people of Tanzania, but I think they are not coming. And other countries are not represented here. We have also now people from Rwanda who are receiving you here. I want everyone from Rwanda to stand to receive all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we recognize the organizers of these conferences, the Rwanda Allied Health Professions Council, together with GACOPA and the Rwanda Clinical Officers Organization. I also want to recognize the guest of honor, who is from the Ministry of Health. It's the Director General of Quality Health Services. You can stand up, just greet. We give him time. Thank you very much. My few words I want to talk here is to express my gratitude to all of you who decide to come here. You know, it's not easy to invite people and then they respond. We were expecting many people, but some canceled at the end for different reasons. But we are so very, very grateful for those who managed to come here to Rwanda. Thank you very much. And I'm sure that your stay will be enjoyable. We will do all we can to make it the most remembered, that you will always remember your stay here in Kigali. The reason we are meeting here, it's following the recommendations of the ESC, Sector Ministerial meeting that was held in Burundi in February last year, where it was recommended that health professionals which have not yet started their harmonization process to start the process. That was the recommendation. We come, I think when they do the presentation, we will see it later. So then from that recommendations, it was saying that because as you know, maybe you don't know, but so far in East African community, it's only the Medical Council that have already reached the mutual recognition agreement. They went through the harmonization process with different steps that we are going to see when they do the presentation to reach the mutual recognition agreement. And as you remember, in the East African Common Market Protocol, it's really recommended that we need to harmonize our trainings and practices of health professionals at all levels so that can allow the free movement of labor and the regulation so to be easier. So that's why the ESC, after assessing and finding that, they found that it's only the Medical Council that already reached the mutual recognition agreement. So they urged all others to start. And then when we left Bujumbura, we were with a team. We put in place a team. And the team that was chaired by Professor Charles, I think he's here, he can stand up. He's the leader of the steering committee. And with his leadership and the team from different countries, we start to look on ways we can go about this process, which is not easy, we see. It's a long process, but we need to start somewhere. You see, now it's only 1 year. After 1 year, now we have one profession that decided to start. I think we need to clap for the clinical officers who are taking the lead. Yeah, this is will be in they put it in the ESC history. They say, okay, clinical officers started this process after medical, but the most important thing is not to start, is to finish. You know, many people start, but they don't end. You know, some other professionals may come later and overrun the clinical officers, but I don't wish that. So this is a very good example that we have clinical officers now who decide to come to Rwanda to start the process. And we try to invite other professions, health professionals to come and attend and to know what is this process about. Not only in allied health professions, but also in other councils. In Rwanda, we have now the Pharmacy Council, which is represented here. There is a permanent secretary and the officer from the later on we see also the Nursing Council. They will be here. So we, here in Rwanda, all of us, no chairperson, you can come here. Let's just welcome our chairperson, Rwanda Allied Health Professions Council. So the Pharmacy Council and the nurses that are also embarking with us, because that's why we are here, all of us, to learn and to see how we can go about so that we can reach the mutual recognition agreement as soon as possible. Let me finish by thanking the Minister of Health, our Minister of Health here. I'm sure also your ministries of health in your countries, back country, home, because you could not be here if you were not supported by your Minister of Health. So now, the Minister of Health is also behind us, is supporting this process, because we are all committed to fulfill all the recommendations from the EAC Common Market Protocol to allow the free movement of labor in all our countries. It's a process that will be explained by the facilitators, and the facilitators are from the Rwanda Medical Council, who went through it, and then who even got to the point that we need to get to achieve the mutual recognition agreement. They will explain to us all the steps that it needs to take. So let me stop here. I will come back later. But I'm sure you are going to enjoy it. We tried to put in place everything you need. You've seen the program, and the MC will be here to guide us. But before I finish, I'm going to invite the guest of honor, who is the Director General from the Ministry of Health, so that he can give us the opening remarks. Thank you.
Good morning. President of Global Clinical Officer, Associate Physician, Chairperson of Rwanda Allied Health Professionals we have today. And congratulations so far for organizing this workshop. Registrars and we have together for both Allied and the medical. This is a strong partnership we have today that is starting for a long time. The delegate from different countries we have today, the member state of ESA, and I'm happy for you for coming here and manage to come as early as possible. This was the time for us to welcoming here, and I'm happy to give you a remarks of today as introducing this workshop. ESA Africa Community Partners was starting to begin this the possibility of harmonization, which in terms of service, quality of service, in terms of how we can be dealing with this professional in a harmonized way. It is started by this member state to come together by having like sharing of experience in a way how can be our population having the same quality of services. And in that circumstance, we need to having the regulation for the council and the other member state to have this. In this, it comes for providing through education, registration, and the academic institution with various including like admission, the different requirements, and the training at the same academic issues. So when it comes to dealing with health professionals, it comes by these health councils to be among the team lead for having quality services in the community. So when you pass through on the burden we have in Africa, most specifically in sub-Saharan Africa, we still have the gap in terms of half workforce. The workforce is in a challenge when you see the density in terms of workforce. The ESA member state we still had lagging behind. When you see check on data, the member state we have in the EC, we have like less than 2 health workforce in a 1,000 population. This is showing how the burden it is in the disease management. So we need to have this critical thinking on how to increase the number of workforce. In Rwanda, we're starting like the reform that we call 4x4. It's increasing the number of workforce 4 times in the 4 years. It's a reform which will be end in 2028. Means that we need to increase the number of workforce. So by increasing the number of workforce, they need like in terms of quantity, but we need what we call quality. In equality, we need this harmonization of the standard in the councils or other member state. So it means that this workshop, as we are starting with the clinical officers, we're going to regulate how can this, the clinical officer in East African community, how it should be look like, the competence, and then even how the expectation we should having by increasing the market. We tend to having the like, our readers tend to increase the free movement of people from one country to another by this we call the trade marketing, but for the free movement of health workforce also it's very needed. So you cannot move from this country to another without being regulated to councils. So when we have this harmonization in terms of different country members of East African community, that will be easy the free movement. We need more, we not need more document for like clinical officers who come from Kenya or Uganda to come to Rwanda. And then when we have this mutual agreement, it will not need much because we evaluate this, the curriculum, the admission requirement, all the things in academic or the requirement for licensing. When we have this mutual understanding and every country going to put in a place, and with the joint regular inspection in different countries to check whether all the agreement has been put in place, so that we need to have this mutual agreement which keep progressing to a service, a quality service in Rwanda or the other countries. So the other things we should think about is primary health care. When we see like 95% of the disease we have, it should be treated at the community level, means without go beyond health centers. When we increase the number of workforce, the equipment, the system, the referral system, that we need to manage all the disease at the limited time at the health centers, the health post, or the community level. So that's 95% of disease managed at the primary health care level. That we need to have like decrease the burden for the other district hospitals or university teaching hospital. And we need time for them, to give time for them to do sometimes the research. That research will inform the community or the primary health care what to improve. So those, it's among of the challenge we should keep in mind, that the more increase than the clinical officers, the more increasing the allied health professionals, we increase the number and the quality at the same time. That increase also the requirement to meet those expectations from the community level. So it is one of the things that you need to discuss here to check whether we can increase those numbers to the primary health care. And this harmonization also should consider on how we can achieve those 95% of primary health care disease to be treated at the level of the community, as also the way of benchmarking. So we have also another things to check on, in which the councils should manage. We need to check how we can fulfill our clinical officers or the other professionals in terms how we can regulate our councils in a way of reducing the complaints. We used to have some complaints of different professionals, like this requirement is very complicated, it seems like that. So whenever you can sit here, you can change the experience. Like, how are you going to regulate, how are you going to increase in terms of capacity, and then how is doing in Kenya, how is doing in Burundi. Those sharing of experience, you can create this mutual friendship that whenever you are in your country, you can check on the other country. By sharing this experience, you can regulate your professional in a good way. So I'll thank you for this time, for inviting the Minister of Health, and then I can assure that the Minister of Health is very supporting for this initiative. From the starting time of organizing this meeting, we're together with the allied health professional, and I think that this collaboration in a different manner should be continued, as also you are bringing together the EC here, which is a good step, but also I will challenge you to go through also the globally. So that is very good to keep checking on. I thank you for this time, and then on behalf of Honorable Minister who delegate me to come here for opening this workshop, I wish you a fruitful stay here. Enjoy the beauty of Rwanda and enjoy the climate, the greenish, and stay safe here in Rwanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Let us appreciate the Ministry of Health, Rwanda, for the support that they have given this process so far. Thank you so much, the guest of honor. I know you might be in a hurry, but I would request you to take a few minutes. I invite the president of ACOPA to make his remarks, and then we'll have a group photo with the guest of honor before he leaves. So at this point, I want to invite the president of ACOPA, Mr. Austin Odur. Please welcome.
Thank you so much, all the delegates who are present here, and thank you, the Director General of Rwanda Ministry of Health, for accepting our invitation to officially open this function. And the registrar has given a clear roadmap of what has brought us here. And as GACOPA, we are also happy that we are taking part in this history, because this is history that is being made. So I will only take something like 5 minutes. I will quickly read through this speech that I had for you people. This is the speech from the President of the Global Association of Clinical Officers and Physician Associates, delivered today in this historic first East Africa Clinical Officers Harmonization Workshop held here at the Lebanon Hotel. So to the Director General, Quality and Standards, Dr. Jean-Baptiste, representing the Minister for Health, distinguished guests, all the regulatory bodies, the key people in the clinical medicine field, all protocols observed. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Yeah, I am Austin Odur. I am a clinical officer by profession and practicing dermatovenerologist. To be precise, currently I'm attached at the Migori County Referral Hospital in the Republic of Kenya. Today I stand before you, ladies and gentlemen, to address you in my capacity as the President of the Global Association of Clinical Officers and Physician Associates, that's GACOPA, as an organization that prides itself in pursuing seamless operations within an evolving healthcare landscape and fulfilling the growing demands for quality health services through the establishment of standardized guidelines for the proper training and licensing of healthcare workers. I found this workshop for the harmonization of training practices and licensing within East African community through a collaborative approach, I could not have come at a better time. It is an honor to address this workshop organized pursuant to the resolutions of the 23rd Ordinary Meeting of the East Africa Community Sectoral Council of Ministers of Health. This meeting sought to address the stalled harmonization processes for the allied health professionals, pharmacists, nurses, midwives, clinical officers across the East African community. As a matter of utmost importance, the regulation of healthcare practices across our member states is paramount. Further, our pursuit of regional integration and harmonization requires that we recognize the critical role of healthcare in fostering the well-being and prosperity of our citizens. Healthcare knows no borders. Diseases, pandemics, and health crises transcend geopolitical boundaries. As such, it is incumbent upon us to forge a collaborative framework for the regulation of healthcare practices that transcends national frontiers. However, the lack of harmonization in healthcare regulation across our member states presents significant challenges, and there are disparities in standards, qualification, and licensing requirements, not only that these undermine the quality of care, but also impair the free movement of healthcare professionals within the region, just as the registrar had already stated. This fragmentation not only hampers the delivery of efficient healthcare services, but also jeopardizes patient safety and trust. We are the guardians of public health, as the DG stated, and we are entrusted with the responsibility to safeguard lives and promote the highest standards of care. Consequently, let us reaffirm our commitment to the well-being of patients and the public. Every decision we make and every regulation we enforce must be guided by this overarching principle. Therefore, I assert that our collective response must transcend borders, leverage shared expertise and resources to mitigate health threats on a global scale. Together, we can enhance surveillance system, facilitate information sharing, and harmonize regulatory approaches to ensure a coordinated and effective response. To this extent, I urge the relevant stakeholders present here, especially now at the East Africa Council of Ministers, that we spearhead efforts towards the establishment of a unified and harmonized regulatory framework for healthcare practice across the East African community. Such a framework should be built upon the principles of equity, transparency, and mutual recognition of qualifications. By harmonizing standards and streamlining training and licensing processes, we can facilitate the mobility of healthcare professionals, enhance the quality of care, and promote cross-border healthcare collaboration. Moreover, a unified regulatory system will bolster public confidence in healthcare services across the region, fostering a conducive environment for investment and innovation in this sector. In forging this collective approach to healthcare regulation, we must also prioritize the protection of patients' rights and interests. Robust mechanisms for oversight, accountability, and recourse must be integral components of our regulatory framework. Ensure that the highest standards of ethics and professionalism are also upheld across the region. Together, we have the power to shape a healthcare ecosystem that is safer, more equitable, and more resilient than ever before. In conclusion, the time is ripe for East Africa community to take bold strides towards harmonizing healthcare regulation across our member states. Let us seize this opportunity to safeguard health and well-being of our citizens, strengthen regional integration, and build a healthier, more prosperous future for all. I thank you.
We are going to the next session, and this is very important, and maybe the reason why we are here, sharing good practices amongst countries. And we want to give each country a very short time to just give us the structure about their country, how the clinical officers are organized and what they do. We'll give about 10 minutes each, so that from there we can actually start the process of harmonization. So I want to invite Rwanda clinical officers representative to just give us the structure. We are not going into details. It's just the organization, the highlights from each country, and it's from there that we shall form the framework on the way we shall move forward. So I want to invite Rwandan President of the clinical officers, Mr. Daniel, to come and give us the status in Rwanda. Let us welcome him as he comes.
And I think it is still in the morning. Habari za asubuhi. I extend a heartfelt welcome to each of you who has graciously accepted our invitation to today's workshop. Your presence from esteemed guests, such as representative from Health, University of my former dean, Professor Nadine, and Deputy Dean, Dr. Nuh. Also chairperson of Medical Council. Here is also chairperson of Pharmacy Council. I see department staff and students from University of Rwanda. So your presence fills us with gratitude, but also you are most welcome, the international delegates. Let's jump back to 2011, when the Minister of Health Rwanda, in collaboration of University of Rwanda, launched the Clinical Officers Program. Initially, it included 17 months of bridging courses for individuals with nursing backgrounds, leading to graduates in 2013 with an A1 diploma. So bachelor's degree training followed in 2012, with the first cohort graduating in 2016. However, our momentum faced as setbacks in 2017, when the recruitment abruptly halted or stopped, presenting one of our biggest challenges here in Rwanda for clinical officers. Yet, amidst uncertainty, our dedication remained steadfast. We understood that the complexity involved and the continuing advocating for the program resumption. Today, we stand united with over 400 clinical officers and 138 students enrolled at the University of Rwanda, and we aspire for more colleges to embrace to start our profession in their universities. We acknowledge the temporary placements and the collaborative efforts that have enabled us to preserve. Despite the challenges, we have made a significant stride in a positive impacting Rwandan lives, and we are determined to continue shining alongside with you. We thank all the stakeholders who helped us during the process of recognition. Those include the Ministry of Health Rwanda, University of Rwanda, Rwanda Allied Health Professional Council, Global Association of Clinical Officers, but also the media. I'm very happy that today the councils represented here. So, because some professionals asked themselves, who are these people? Who are these professionals? Who are clinical officers? What are they coming to do? Are they coming to take us, our laws? But I have a question that a holistic approach remains paramount, ensuring optimal patient care, even in challenging circumstances. So harmonization is a key to resolving conflicts like that, facilitating free movement for labor market, capacity building, and fostering professionalism. So with your support, we can expedite this journey towards a harmonious and productive future. In closing, I extend my deepest gratitude to each of you for your unwavering support and dedication. Let's continue working together to make a tangible difference in our community of East Africa, and this may go beyond East Africa. To our international delegates, I wish you a safe and a pleasant stay. Thank you so much.
Chairman, organizers of the workshop, President Gakopa, Registrar, delegates, chief guests, ladies and gentlemen, and clinical officer students here present, good morning again. It's a great honor to be here in Rwanda for this very, very meaningful effort. And I was glad to hear that the recommendation for the harmonization began some time back, first in the minds of the people, but then articulated in Burundi, and this is an effort that must not stop. The burden in healthcare is especially in Africa, south of Sahara, and indeed in all countries of the world, is the workforce. It's the workforce. If I give you a simple example for Kenya, because I want to articulate the position for Kenya, we have 30,000 clinical officers in Kenya. 30,000. But if you look at the population of the country, where we say we have 56 million people, 30,000 is a very small number. Among the doctors in Kenya, we have about 10,000 doctors. The majority of the Kenyan population lives in the rural areas, and that is where the clinical officers are. When you have any medical problem, including an emergency maternity case or a simple injury to your little toe, the nearest person who can help you medically is a clinical officer. With 30,000, in a population of 56 million, I am telling you, you need a medical person harmonized across the region so that anybody can step in to help you. Clinical officers in primary healthcare may be the single most important solution going forward into the future. We say, for example, in Kenya, that the population of Kenya is 56 million. But if you listen carefully, if you do research, you'll find that you must be at least 58 million or 60 million. Because when you go to any funeral, and a man has died, he's being buried, the wife stands up and she says she had 4 children with this man. But quietly, in the multitude, 1 or 2 other women spring up in the community and they say, I was also the wife of that man. And I had 1 child. This is recent, even in our major burial recently in Kenya. If you read the newspapers, I had 1 child. But in some cases, the children are competing with the actual wife, the first wife of this man. She had 3 children, but this one had 3 children. So what I'm suggesting, although we are saying the population is 56, it may actually be 60 million, given that research finding. In Kenya, the structure for clinical officers is very, very clear. We are led by a clinical officer council whose chairman is appointed by the president of that country, the chairman of clinical officers council. Clinical officers are not in a council that is under other councils or combined with other councils. Clinical officers form a very, very critical workforce, and their chairperson is appointed by the president. We have a council which has at least 9 members representing the Director General. Your Director General just left a few minutes ago. Director General is represented in the Clinical Officers Council. We have a council member who is from the major medical training college in the country. It has a member who represents the private clinics, because in our country, we have a very elaborate system where clinical officers can open their own private clinics. We have a member from the government representing the treasury. In this membership, we have a member of the, what we call the parastatals. We have the SCAC representatives, and you have a member for the discipline to make sure that clinical officers in the country are following the ethical, moral, and practical standards. This Clinical Officers Council, the interesting thing about Kenya is that clinical officers are led under the law. We have a law called Clinical Officers Cap 20 of 2017. We are embedded into the laws of Kenya, Cap 20 of 2017, so that our theory, training, and practice are in the law. Because they have realized that if you only have 10,000 doctors in a country, and the majority of primary healthcare providers are clinical officers, you have to take very good care of these 30,000. And then not only are they in government in practice, but they're also in private practice. The roles of the Clinical Officers Council in the country is to coordinate the training and the practice of clinical officers. This council also regulates the registration and the licensing of the clinical officers. And also, it is concerned about not only the regulation, but to make sure that they are doing continuing professional development. So a clinical officer who graduated in 1978 is not simply practicing, but is engaging in continuing education so that he is up to date in his practice. What I need to add for Kenya is that with such a huge number of clinical officers, if your council is unique and standing, it means that any issues and problems that come for clinical officers, that can be articulated. Let me mention here very humbly that the members of the clinical officers from Kenya who have come to this workshop may kindly stand up. Let us see you, so that I'm not talking quietly alone here. I have an army to assist me in articulating this. We have chairman of the Clinical Officers Union and the Secretary General of the Union. We have a member of the council standing next there. We have Mr. Njero here, coming from one of our universities, and I am Professor Simon Kangethe, chairman of the Clinical Officers Council. And at the back there, we have a secret army to make sure if we cannot articulate the issues, they'll be able to step in and speak on our behalf. Thank you very much. Please sit down. I am a clinical officer, but coming from the School of Medicine at one of our universities in Kenya, known as Moi University School of Medicine, beyond being the chairman of the Clinical Officer Council. So in our country, the clinical officers are recognized uniquely. They are represented in law. The president of the country appoints the chairman himself. The council members are representing even the private practice, and that is the way it should go. Going forwards, I look at this effort as going forward. Please do not stall, because we want harmonization so that when we talk about a clinical officer in Ethiopia, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Tanzania, in Rwanda, in Burundi, everybody says, yes, we know who that professional is and we know what work he does. We want to begin moving quickly so that we can harmonize those at diploma level and those at a degree level. Let the world know who we are and what we do. I wish to confess to you that I'm a clinical officer, and my father was also a clinical officer. I sometimes say, you people are trained to become clinical officers, but I'm a genetically predetermined clinical officer. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you very much, Professor, for the awesome wrap-up of what clinical officers are doing in Kenya. I really liked everything about the Clinical Officers Council and the work that they're doing. And I hope we are not stopping from here. I've read there that we are here to build a united path for optimal healthcare. So, Daniel, I hope you noted something, and I've done as well. So thank you so much, Professor. We are very impressed with your speech. Now, as we move to Burundi, let us welcome the representative of clinical officers from Burundi, and she is Miss Colombe Bizumuremyi. I hope I pronounced that in Burundian language, and if not, I've really tried my best. So, welcome to the stage. The floor is yours. A round of applause as she joins me.
Thank you. Is it okay? Yeah. Thank you. My name is Colombe Bizumuremyi. I'm from Burundi. I'm a lecturer at National Institute of Public Health, and I'm the president of Clinical Officers Association. Delegates from different countries or protocol observed here. Bonjour. Yeah, I'm presenting the Burundi clinical officer. I will tell you in short how we are doing there. Regarding Burundi case, we have two institutions, two universities, which are training clinical officers. One is Mwaro University, another one is there in capital, in Bujumbura. Mwaro is in village province. And then they have a bachelor's program only. They have bachelor's degree program. And it started in 2001. Then now there are 24 years only. Yeah. And now in Burundi, we have 3 years program because the system, educational system has changed. From 2015, the program has changed to from 4 years to 3 years. Yeah. Now, clinical officer who have bachelor's degree study 3 years. So, the program is called Sciences et Techniques Paramédicales in French, because French is the national language and the educational language. So, I think this is where we have the big issue, because this thing called paramedical is where they don't get. That's how they ask, what is paramedical and the relationship with clinical officer? And the problem was the traduction, because we used to use French only. And the program was from Kenya. There is the late Professor Kabondo, who was there in Kenya, he is the one who brought this program to Burundi. And then now he's no more. and the problem was coming after him. That's the problem. And then students who studied in Burundi, they were from Burundi, from Rwanda, and from Congo, all over there. They came to Burundi and were trained for 4 years, lately, and now 3 years. But now, these people who are studied in Burundi, when they come to their country here in Rwanda, they count many problems. They are not recognized as clinical officer. I think the problem is the same. This thing, paramedical, is where they have the problem. That's why they are not recognized. When it comes to the employability level, in my country, in Burundi, clinical officers are employed by government, by private sectors, and they can even work in pharmacies. But guess what? They are not working as clinical officers, they are working as nurses, because there is a scope of practice issue also. There is no package of what they have to do. There are confusion. And when we introduce these things of clinical officer, now they don't get anymore. That's why still problem. Yeah, but at least they are employed, even though they are employed as nurses. But the difference is those ones who start there and come here in Congo, and they are not recognized by the government or the health minister, maybe. But because they didn't get the equivalent of the diploma or the degree. So, when it comes to the regulatory body, there was no regulatory body till to last month. Now, His Excellency the President has signed, and then now we have a regulatory body from January in this year, in 2014. We are going to be regulated with the council, the health profession, the Allied Health Profession Council. Now, yes, this is a big step because the association has fought, has pushed forward so that we are included, because even in the council, within the list of the professionals who were to be regulated, we were omitted, but now we are included. This is the effort of our members of the association now we are in. Yes, now, today, a clinical officer in Burundi who are graduated these days, they are encountering a problem of not recruitment. They are not recruiting them because now nurses are many. Because nurses are many and they don't get what clinical officer is supposed to do in health center, they are recruiting nurses only because they are the one they know better. They know better. Yeah, that is it. Yeah, in short, that's how Burundi is doing for clinical officer. And now, if I can plead for this one, I count on the association, on the council to consider this case of those one who studied there. Because you see, we are here because we are clinical officer, and then those one are our classmates, we studied together. If you can consider and then pass tests, if someone pass, so that they can get the chance to practice clinical profession. Thank you very much to this.
Thank you very much. Now, as we proceed with Uganda, we are going to have Mr. Peter Nyamutale. That way. Welcome. A round of applause as Peter joins us to tell us about clinical officers in Uganda. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Master of Ceremonies, for giving me this chance. I'm called Nyamutale Peter. I'm the registrar of Allied Health Professionals Council, which regulates clinical officers in Uganda. Organizers of the workshop, registrars present, chairpersons of councils, ladies and gentlemen, protocol observed. Maybe before I start, let me first ask the people who came from Uganda under the leadership of Professor John Charles Okiria, who is the head of delegation and the chair of the Allied Health Professionals Council, to stand up for recognition. Thank you very much. In Uganda, as is one of the oldest health professionals that in the country, which was started by Sir Albert Cook before independence in 1950s. Started their training. Clinical officers are regulated under Allied Health Professionals Council, and Allied Health Professionals Council is one of the 4 health regulatory councils in the Ministry of Health. The other 3 being the Medical Council, which regulates doctors and dental surgeons, the Nurses Council, which regulates nurses and midwives, and the Pharmacy Council, which regulates pharmacists. When they were making the Acts of Parliament and councils were formed, the other 3 councils were closed. They don't add on any other profession. You are a nurses council, you will regulate nurses and midwives, full stop. But the Allied Health Professionals Council was left open to accommodate all other cadres that come on board. And currently, we are regulating 34 cadres, including the clinical officers. The clinical officers that we have in Uganda, according to their training, are categorized as follows. We have medical clinical officers. That is the first level of clinical officers, where they are trained for 3 years and they get a diploma in clinical medicine and community health. Then we have psychiatric clinical officers, ophthalmic clinical officers, and ENT clinical officers. Those ones are 3 areas of specialization after you have trained as a medical clinical officer for 3 years. Then you go back to the training institution and acquire that skill of specialization in that field for 1 year. So we call them post-basic trainings. Then in the year 2019, that's when we started a bachelor's degree in Uganda, which is offered by one university, and it is a private university. So we are doing it as a pilot study to see how the course will go on. And as we stand now, that private university has so far produced 276 bachelor clinical officers, while the total number of clinical officers on the register is 13,281. So the training, as I had explained, for bachelors it is 4 years, post-basic is 3 years plus 1, which is 4. Then medical clinical officers, the starting point is 3 years. And we have one university offering bachelors, and then 18 universities and other tertiary institutions which offer the diploma programs. Then now we can see their practice. Their practice is spread. In Uganda, we have health service delivery centers, which start with a health center 2, which caters for the health services of the population within a parish. Then health center 3 for a sub-county, health center 4 for a constituency or a county, then hospital, general hospital for a district. Then we have regional referral hospital, which combines several districts, and then finally, national referral hospitals. So the positions for clinical officers are, they start from health center 3. Health center 3, they are on health center 4, they are in district hospitals and in regional referral hospitals. On health center 3, they are the in charges of the facility. So that means out of a staff of 29 on a health center 3, the senior clinical officer is in charge, assisted by a junior clinical officer, then the other cadres of nurses, midwives, lab assistants, health inspectors fall under his or her supervision. While in general hospitals, they head the OPD, outpatient department. In conclusion, for Uganda, we are ready to observe the decision of Council of Health Ministers in EAC as regards clinical officers training and practice. And that is why we are here together with our head of clinical officers and allied health in the country, Professor John Charles Okiria, because we are observing the decision of the EAC Council of Ministers. And we hope to participate fully in this harmonization workshop and to put in place whatever will have been decided in the workshop for God and my country.
I want to request the next presenters. We shall have 2. They have planned how they will present. Professor Rudakemwa, who is from Rwanda Medical and Dental Council. And then we have Mr. Thande. I hope I'm pronouncing well. Thande. Tathi. Tathi. I'm sorry. Tathi. Very good. I've tried. So those are our next presenters. And actually, this forms the backbone of our conference today, because they will take us through the process, how the medical and dentist board went through, and then we can maybe borrow from that and build on it. So it is my pleasure to invite the presenters, whoever is starting. Please let us put our hands together as we welcome Professor Rudakemwa. Most welcome.
Yes, thank you very much. So my name is Vuguziga, but in Kenya they called me Vuvuzera. So that is more easy, but Vuguziga means talk less. Talk less, yeah. But Vuvuzera talk much. So, of course, I'm talking on behalf of my mentor, my chairman, Professor Rudakemwa Emmanuel. He's here. Professor can say hello to. Yes, he's a great man to me. He has been my chairman, but specifically my mentor. He's the one who took my hands, who gave me all the opportunity to travel and participate in the ESC activities from 2012 up to now. He's the one who took me my hands and traveled to Association of Medical Council of Africa and even at the international level, because at that time I was young, but now I'm getting old. Without him, I could not be able to stand here sharing the experience we had since 2012 up to now which end up by having a mutual recognition agreement. Of course, that's not the right opportunity. I will find time to thank him in a Rwandan way. We give something special. Thank you very much for inviting the Rwanda Medical and Dental Council. I'm the Deputy Registrar in charge of medical education and CPD program, but have been acting as a registrar since 2015. I'm also a lecturer of molecular biology and genetics at the Mount Kenya University, Kigali campus. So we're going to share the experience we had so that these, the allied in this partner state can follow, and we commit our support to the end. Now, currently, a medical doctor from Kenya, from Uruguay, from everywhere in those 8 partner states, they are registered easily within 24 hours, and they are treated as local citizens in terms of requirement, in terms of application fee. There is no restriction because we are supported by the protocol signed by the head of state. That protocol that the president has been saying about, the protocol of on market free movement of service and labor, because those great professor has spent sleepless nights. I remember I've been traveling to, even we have been working even during the night in Arusha, in Kampala, and even in Tanzania to make sure the documents are here. And then the purpose is to make sure that the 4x4 strategy the minister have been talking about, the increase of the ratio professional per patients is achieved within 4 years. So we want people from our partner state to move to practice in Rwanda, transfer knowledge, if they want, stay or return back. So we have, and then you say, we have been developing some document for both sides, pre-service and in service. For pre-service, together in those with those active member states, which are Kenya, Tanzania, Burundi, Rwanda, and Uganda, we developed those documents, guidelines for pre-service. Pre-service means in the school, before practicing. Those are like indexing policy. What are the minimum admission criteria to be admitted into medical school? Because you can see somebody who have underwent construction saying, now I have to go for medicine, because there are minimum criteria in terms of performance from high school, even ethics and the behavior. We developed core curriculum, that is the benchmark for the curriculum of medicine across the partner states. Meaning that we are sure that a student studying in Makerere have the same curriculum as the one studying at the University of Rwanda. But of course, we have been encouraging that core curriculum is a minimum, but people can add additional, like the University of Global Health Equity have added that a graduate should have knowledge on gender, should have a knowledge on global health. The University of Adventist, they add some component of, how do you call those, pastor? Theology, yes, and ethics, and leadership. And now from the University of Rwanda, we also have been encouraging to add a component of interprofessional collaboration, because I've seen that we are losing life of our patients, mother or babies, not due to the lack of knowledge or competence, but to the lack of collaboration, poor communication. Those are the soft skills that the doctor, what we call the 5-star doctor, we want, should have knowledge, skills, but also with a package of interprofessional collaboration and ethics. We have now developed the medical school inspection guidelines. Now, since 2012, we have been doing the joint inspection of medical school and teaching hospital in all partner states. And this inspection is done every 3 years. Last year, it was the turn of the round of Rwanda, and Rwanda has been successful. All 3 medical schools have been scored 90%. While when I remember, while in Tanzania, about 2 medical schools have been closed. And I remember it was the time of Magufuli. Magufuli called people who conducted the inspection and shake hands, say, thank you very much for having said the truth, because my people didn't show me those gaps. The same with Uganda. There is a university here, Kampala International, here in Barara, have been suspended for 6 months to fix ABCD. Normally, this inspection has been very helpful, and the University of Rwanda have today, my professor can say it is because of those external eyes. When they know that there is inspection, they fix everything. We have 9 standards from governance to the teaching hospital, because medicine is not taught in the schools, it's taught in the hospital. That is pre-service. Then we also went to in-service. Jointly together, we harmonized internship centers, internship program in general. And then from there, we developed the internship guidelines and internship logbook. We have agreed that among those 4 partner states, that the intern should rotate in 4 main departments, and you have set the minimum targets. When you go to the Department of Gynecology, you are in Uganda, in Kenya, you are asked to perform, it is about 120 cesarean section. But of course, under supervision, not independently. So it is harmonized across the EAC partner state. We harmonized the registration and licensing policy, because licensing, registration is not sentimental. We have a common policy which regulates how a medical doctor who is a general practitioner is registered. We have the list of requirements, and then they fulfill and they register immediately. But there is a component that we put in the MRI that before a medical doctor fly from Uganda to Rwanda, he should have a certificate of good status. Do not commit any malpractice and fled to another country. There should be a signed certificate of good status before moving from one state to another, signed by the registrar. We harmonized the CPD program. So for some people from the House of Media who are here present, health professionals are requested to spend their evening not in the bar drinking a beer, but spend their night in the journal clubs, not night club, journal clubs, teaching each other. That's what we call interprofessional education, or what we call continuing professional development program. Now you can see that every Friday in Rwanda and Kigali, medical doctors are busy in those CPD accredited center, because to renew their license is not like a baptism. You should present the evidence of 50 points in your area of specialization, because health practice medicine is dynamic. They should teach each other When you fail to have those 50 points, your license is not renewed. When your license is not renewed, you are suspended. If you do something during suspension, you are taken in the court of law. And in addition, the health insurance could not pay what you have done illegally. And then we have now started to harmonize the scope of practice of medical doctors across the EAC partner state, but this one has not yet developed. So we want that also the clinical officers start to touch on those two components, pre-service and in-service. And then as the outcome, we developed the mutual recognition agreement that we call MRI for easy reciprocal recognition during registration and licensing of our professionals. I think the next sectoral council, which will take place in Arusha by May, will approve that outcome of mutual recognition agreement. It has been signed between engineers, between lawyers, but the medical doctors has signed between the chairperson, but it goes to the high authority of sectoral council of ministers of health. Then, how was it done? And how can you do that? Because remember, my professor will compliment, will give supplement. There should be some legal framework, and there should be high level of patriotism to make sure you have the document. We created a forum of registrar. The registrar from those partner states or CEO of medical councils created a forum where they meet every quarter, virtually or physically. They are the promoter because they are the one who manage daily activity of their regulatory bodies. Remember, a regulatory body is not an association. Is established by the Act of Parliament to ensure that the population or the patients are protected from harm. That whoever practices X profession is fully registered after presenting the required document. So the registrar or CEO are the one who manage daily activity of the council or the regulatory body. And then they initiate and develop the policy and the guideline documents. When we develop those guidelines, then we present them to the forum of chairpersons. Chairpersons are appointed by the minister or even some in the countries by the cabinet. They are the ones to endorse those documents developed. And then they are the one to present those documents to the sectoral council of Minister of Health. As he mentioned before, the last sectoral council took place in Bujumbura. It is attended by the technical working group on regulation. Now it is not the registrar or the CEO who present, it is the chairperson who present those documents, and then the Minister of Health in his partner state take notes, approve, and then it is enforced. As you can see here, that the last point is to take to the sectoral council of minister, because in the preparation of those ordinary meetings, they share the background paper, and then the chairperson puts it their inputs. What has been achieved that we want the clinic officers to achieve? For pre-service, we are proud that we developed the guideline for inspection and recognition of medical school and the teaching hospital in the EAC partner state. And the people and the students are very happy. Last time, wherever we go, the students shake hands, thank you very much. After graduation, I am free to move, to practice wherever I am. Sorry for Burundi. The 3 medical school has been suspended, has been given 6 months to fix ABCD from governance to the faculty. When the medical school is given 6 months, they are be inviting the forum to go back. When they meet the requirement, they are accredited. When they don't meet, they are closed. That's the way the University of Gitwe here in Rwanda has been closed. It was because there is substandard element. So then, how to do? Because my presentation is not political, it's technical, I'm going to some time to shift here to show you what we developed. I shared with the CEO of Allied Council so that you can immediately go into activity to develop one of the documents from Kigali. Like here, when I click here, this is the guideline for inspection and recognition of medical and teaching hospital in ES partner state. And then I can go, because I shared with you where it is medical, you can put clinical, and then you update it. We have 8 standards, governance and management. Who is the chief of the university, the VC or the owner? There is some university when the owner is the one who hire a cleaner. That is the poor governance and the management. Academic program, the curriculum, is it approved by competent authority, those higher education council, or not? We have a physical infrastructure. In some countries, those universities have been closed, anatomy is taught in the classroom like this. While anatomy should be taught in anatomy lab with 1 to 5 cadaver, means that one student should have, 5 students for 1 cadaver, mean 5 students for 1 dissecting table. Because that's number 1. In the most countries, they run anatomy using the YouTube tutorials, and they have never dissected. And then that could put our population into danger. When they go inside, they cut everything. So, and then by this inspection, that is a call for a wake up. And then people have been starting to search for cadavers, those unclaimed cadavers. They are not using the normal cadaver. They are used an unclaimed cadaver, and there is a law about the use of cadaver for teaching purpose. That's one component, for example. For infrastructure, the ES partner state is very serious with basic sciences laboratory, physiology, anatomy, microbiology, biochemistry, because it's all, when you have misdiagnosis, you obviously will get up mismanagement of the patient. Faculty, my God, this was also very critical. Faculty means lecturers. We said that for preclinical years, they should have a ratio of 1 to 7. 1 student for 7 lecturers. Like, let's take an example. When you have like a class of 30 students, you should have at least 3 lecturers of anatomy. 1 to 10, that's the ratio. And among the partner states, there was a shortage of those lecturers of anatomy. And then there was a call-up. They went through Nigeria, Ghana, to hire and bring those qualified lecturers. Here we talk about qualified, competent, and appropriate number of lecturers. Then we go to student affairs. Of course, they should make sure that students they have those welfare component. And we go to M&E, research and innovation, but teaching a hospital. That was very critical, that every medical school should have its own teaching hospital with a clear contract with their specialist to teach their student. You may send your student to X hospital. When you go there, he just spend the whole, no one take care for, because there's no MOU between the teaching hospital and As you can see here, when you are scored below 50, it is a closure of the medical school because they are not training professionals, they are training people who will be a danger to the society. That's one document I shared with you that you could develop to make sure you can, we have a harmonized harmonized clinical officer training framework. I go back to the presentation. We developed here down, sorry, the checklist. The checklists are shared with the school ahead of time for self-assessment, touching to all those components. Those are the checklists here. They put information and then they can, like, the school should have a clear vision. It's everybody and visible to everybody. So, and each criteria has a point. And then, as I was showing you here, each department should have a qualified head. So this is a checklist to serve as a self-assessment so that when the inspection is coming, it's not a surprise. You are aware that you have some gap. Then after, for in service here, we have developed the benchmark for medicine. That I said it before, that is the core curriculum. And then we developed the mutual recognition agreement. It is also here. Mutual recognition agreement for medical and dental practitioner in the ESC partners.
Sorry for that disconnect. I think that is very insightful presentation. Let us give the registrar a big hand of applause. That's very, very good. And I think we have a lot to borrow from what the Medical and Dental Council has done. And like he's saying, where you can substitute the title, I think we'll just borrow. I hope we'll not be accused of plagiarism. For now, members, I want to invite you to make reactions to his presentation on all the areas. Because in the afternoon, we shall now go to the real workshop where we shall form groups and we come up with a working document where now we shall follow it up to the guidance he has given us for approval at the East Africa Legislative Assembly, or Council rather. So this is the time for reactions. Any question?
Thank you. Let me go first. My name is George Gibore. I'm a clinical officer, and I lead the union in Kenya as the general secretary. First, I appreciate this specific work, and it is really a pointer to what we want to achieve. And probably I will ask whether the team has also focused, because I know that in most of this country where they are struggling is because the basis, which is the law, an act of parliament, is lacking or has some gaps. That is the act which establishes like the regulatory body and the main mandate of that regulatory body. If there is countries that are lacking that, then what is the focus so that it can be adopted at the East African level for purpose of being domesticated in those countries if there's difficulties, to give them a platform to grow. The other thing I wanted to point out is, in Kenya, we have three bodies. We have the regulatory body, we have the association, and we have the union. The union mostly advocate for employment of the workers and the fair labor practices in those countries. In the absence of the union in most of these countries, that's why you'll find that the regulatory body want to actually multitask, to do both, where they might lack that, that framework to engage. So how do we assist the other countries to ensure that we are at par? Thank you.
Thank you very much for good presentation. I'm Noel Korukire, the chairperson of Rwanda Ladies Professionals Council. In the presentation of Mr. Tade, I saw different steps in this harmonization process, and I think it involves a lot of money or a big budget. So I want to hear from your experience, where did you get the budget to do all these tasks? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar, for the wonderful presentation. By the names of Alex Kachwano, I'm a medical clinical officer from Uganda and Secretary General of Clinical Officers Association of Uganda. What I wanted to know, throughout the presentation, you have highlighted on the different steps and involvement of the stakeholders, but one area I failed to understand well, where you're bringing in to hear from the professionals themselves, besides the regulators. Is there anywhere you are involving the professionals or professional bodies? If so, then it's better you guide such that.
Yeah, my question is similar to what the General Secretary of the Union in Kenya was asking. I just wanted to add something. Thank you so much, Registrar, for that wonderful presentation. You've given us a framework and a road, like you've given us the way so that we can also follow. At what point will we need the input of the East Africa Legislative Assembly? Because you realize that from your presentation, you are just talking about the East Africa Sectoral Council of Ministers of Health. But when we went to the East African Parliament, that was 2 years ago, over this same issue, we were given two options. The first option that you've clearly elaborated was one of the viable options that we could use. The other option was sponsoring a member of the East Africa Legislative Assembly with all the legislation required, so that you can table that to the East Africa Parliament, and it will be debated and passed as a law, because one of the laws that had already been passed in the East African Parliament is the free movement of labor, apart from the free movement of persons and goods. So could we also use that avenue? Because he was saying if we can sponsor a member of parliament, and one of the members of parliament who was supposed to attend here is the chair of the General Purpose Committee in the East African Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. I think, yeah, Prof.
Thank you very much. Mine is really a comment. I see everybody standing up. I hope I'll be very obedient to stand up. Mine is not really a question to the presenter. I want to appreciate what the medical councils have done in this country. They deserve a big clap. I think they have demonstrated that working together is possible. And they have demonstrated that they have the documentation that we can actually benchmark, and which we really should benchmark and see how best we can do. I think the discussion, if you hear the groups from our side asking questions, we have different categories of professional leaderships. The medical doctors don't have the trade unions. We have the association, you also have. You have the councils, you also have. I think one of the challenges that they were having is we should first of all forget about our leadership structures and come down and look at what is the content and the context of a professional requirement for a curriculum to be harmonized. What are the minimum requirements, minimum course units for a given program that should be shared, and allow each country to add, like they are saying, the additional ones. Once we are having harmony in that place, because I have already looked at several curricula. Apart from being a political appointed, I'm a teaching professor with a university. with 20 years of teaching experience. And I also work for National Council for Education for Uganda as a senior program assessor. We then need to find those similarities and then look at who is this person who's going to be called a clinical officer. Do we have all these minimum standards among us, irrespective of whether we are coming from the association, from the union, from the regulatory organs, because we have our differences in regulation. In Kenya, they have a living example of a standalone institution for clinical officers. In Uganda, we have an association which must pass through a council, and a council is a government agency. The curricula run in Uganda is by government of Uganda for private institutions. Curricula run by universities are designed and developed by the universities. What do we have in common for us to begin addressing this? This, all of us are experts in course content. We are experts, some of you are experts in both course content and structure. The other guidelines of inspectors are really to be benchmarked, and some of them really to change the name. We don't want to make this work a big work and look for a lot of money. A sister council has done certain benchmarks. Our biggest concern should be the content and the context of our training. Burundi is saying they have a program for 3 years. Do they really cover for a bachelor's degree to train for 3 years? If the answer is no, the country should be advised. If other countries have 3 years for a diploma, the country should be advised otherwise. Then we build upon that the rest of the documentation, even for acceptability under ESC, will be really, if they are benchmarked for already ESC, what ESC says. I submit, Chair.
Thank you. I think let us give an opportunity to respond to that. Then we'll take another set of questions.
Thank you very much. I can see we have got a number of people that are not in the category of the young. Can we all stand up at this point? And straight a bit, yes. Yes, thank you very much. Tade has done all the work that we are meant to be here doing for the next 2 days. And Professor Charles has made it very clear and understandable. Honestly, you know, they say that a text without context is a pretext. We can have a lot of knowledge. Okay, this is better. Yes. He tried to dwell on the standardization and harmonization. He has significantly labored to explain what we need to have in order to standardize and then harmonize. And I think we understand that. Today went through all the steps that we went through, and I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. It is not necessary. Legal frameworks that back what we are as clinical officers. Probably it is slightly beyond the scope of this meeting here. People can go and work on their acts. People can go and work on their regulatory frameworks. But the reason I think that we are here is to see what can we agree on as clinical officers. Thank you. as clinical officers. And, you know, we have a huge backing. We have an instruction that we must allow free movement of capital and people. Apart from where we have self-inflicted issues like Congo and Burundi, but we are supposed to be allowing people to move up and down, up and go, work wherever they want in the region, because I think that's what our political leaders have put across. So what do we need to do as technicians to have our curricula standardized? The process of making something conform to a standard, I think he has labored that, he has labored to explain that, and I won't go much into it. We've seen the standards we need to put in place such that we can benchmark ourselves upon them. Work done. Where there is medical and dental, put clinical officers. And pharmacy or something else. They say that where there is a will, there is a way. We really don't need a lot of money. When we started this in 2012 or 2013, ESC had a lot of cash flow and capital support from our developed friends. The cash flow dried up. So we had two choices. One, to say we cannot keep going, or let each and every regulatory body support its members such that we come up with the guidelines, the checklists, and then implement what we wanted to implement. We went ahead. We actually reached a level of supporting some of our member states that I won't talk about, where we could all agree, particularly Kenya, Rwanda, and Uganda, where you could agree we shall buy tickets for the chairman and the registrar of this country in order to come and be part of the process, to understand. And that's how hard it was. If you want to make an issue the budget, it will be, and you will never get enough budget. However, if you have the will, you will definitely get the way. So, the issues of professional regulatory bodies, professional regulatory authorities, associations, and unions, those who have the unions and associations and all that, probably we probably may need to wait a bit, come up with what we want, and then start agitating for what we don't have. So if we agree that these are the standards that we want to benchmark ourselves upon, whether you are the association or whether you are the union or whether you're your union activities have nothing to do with us here. You can do them, but I guess we have a common standard we must come up with, which is trying to see how we have an acceptably trained clinical officer in Uganda who can come here and work, who can go to Kenya and work, who can go to Burundi and work, irrespective of anything else. And then the union-related activities can go ahead and do their work. The East African Legislative Assembly, whether it can be a tool that can come up with a legal instruction to say, these are the standards that training should follow, this is what we should do, it might be difficult. It was very easy for the medical and dental councils to implement these frameworks because we played a role. They were done by ourselves, and therefore, even implementing them, it was very easy. So, and there was acceptability across the board. We are talking about the fact that a doctor who has started in Kenya from Moi University can come here and practice the art of healing without any difficulties, because we know if we call the registrar in Kenya and ask whether this person had indexing when he was starting medical school, it becomes very easy. Whether he passed his exams, it becomes very easy for him because there is that human touch. But when you're talking about the legal touch part of it, that there was an instruction by the East African Legislative Assembly that came up with this, it becomes a problem. So I suggest that this might take long, it might take our time, but we need to do it because it is the right thing to do. Then I guess I've talked about most of the issues at length, and since we still have a lot more time to talk about, I will allow my good friend here to answer something that I might have not answered. But really, let's have the will to say, this is what we want, this is how we want it. You will definitely achieve it within a limited time that you want to put yourselves for.
All has been said. Just for 1 minute about the finance. Normally, let's support each other. We don't have the same financial capacity. As he said, we have been supporting Burundi, as Rwanda, to pay some of their ticket and to pay for their accommodation because they showed that their council is not well functional. And then that's the number one, to support each other. Number two, the councils have been tried now to hire competent staff able to develop to grant writing. The project which can generate income so that they can support those activities. Otherwise, there is no support from East African community as it is. It was home-made solution. We try to find our solution so that each council have its own revenue, but the grant writing has been a very supportive project, and then to support those who are weak. Number two, for the Kenya, at which level professional association has been involved. They have been involved in those consultative meetings because you cannot develop the scope of practice without involving the concerned professional association. Like if you want to develop, remember, the regulatory body it has a board, statutory board, made by only 7 or 11 people. They don't have all those competencies. So then we have been organizing various consultative meetings whereby the board invite the chair, vice chair, secretary of concerned professional association in the document development. They are involved at the early stage and so that they own the document. I think the professor has been said, or thank you.
So we would like to really thank the registrar for the presentation that was done here. It's very educative. And I wish to say that, okay, I'm among the teams from Kenya, and I can tell you that we are really in support of the sentiments that you made. I see no reason why we cannot actually create a team immediately to follow up on what you have suggested, because really, the bottom line is we are working for the patients. Some of the patients will be your own relatives, your own neighbors. It is not so much about who helps them. I think at the end of the day, let us create that minimum that the East African community will benefit from. And that one, you have our support. We really would like to request for your support too, maybe by giving us that presentation, availing it to our team, so that the rest I think we can do. And I also wanted to mention that across the board, we have actually the manpower that is needed. For example, in Kenya, for example, Kenyans are willing to even cross over to Rwanda. You know, you made that request about the 4x4. And I can tell you, even as we talk now, we have more than enough. If you give that allowance, Kenyans would be very willing to come and support your program. The chairman is here. And unfortunately, the registrar did not manage to come. I think he developed some issues. He would have said the same with the director who was also to come with him. I was with them yesterday, and I can tell you that Kenyans support your outcry. Should you need labor from Kenya? Because we have, from the structure that you saw, we have a very balanced way of training. And I think the much I can say also is that we are not really at conflict, even with our own doctors. The clinical officers have their level and they respect their level. The doctors have their space and their level, and we respect their level. So with that understanding, it is possible for them to do. When they come here, they know their place. So we would like to make maybe that request. And for my colleagues, maybe who are in this, who are actually the clinical officers, I'm one of them. I'm also a trainer in a university for the last 12 or 13 years. I can actually support that this is the direction we need to go. In fact, we need to move very fast. I like the sentiment of the president of GACOPA that this thing could not have come at a better time. Let us move with speed to create that teamwork and work on that document as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those comments. I think that was a comment. We are coming to the end of this session. Maybe the last comment from the registrar for Rwanda.
Thank you very much. Before we end this session, I also just to give my comment. First of all, I want to thank our presenters, the facilitators who that day and Prof. Man presentation. Just to inform you, I have already the presentation. It will be shared to all of us. And when I invited them, I knew that that's what we needed. Actually, when he started, he said, this is the core presentation that we need for this workshop. Because what is going to follow, it's going to build on what we have here. And then, how can we achieve these steps and when, as we're saying, Prof said that we don't need to reinvent the wheel. So it took like from 2012 to get to this, 12 years now. I think for us or for clinical officers and other professionals who come later, it won't take time, such time. No, it depends on people who are really engaged, and I can see you. By you being here, it shows that you want to do something about it. And it is really needed to define your profession and the scope, as we're talking about. The scope needs to be clear. And by benchmarking, it's going to help us in the training. We know, as you say, well, we are talking about minimum standard that they were saying, minimum standard. And then once they are defined, then you say, okay, now what else is required? The scope is this one. For each category of clinical officers, this is the scope. That will be clear and across the whole ESC. So for me, I think this is the right time. This is the right time. As we start with clinical officers, we expect that other professionals also are going to start already their own journey. And I want to end with this one. Financially, yes, we need money. But remember that most of these things can be done virtually. You don't need to get all the time when you want to meet, then you meet for face-to-face. No, we can start with Zoom meetings. People, different groups. Our role as the steering committee, I think Prof. John remember, was to put in place expert groups from the training part side for the clinicians. People are ready to do the work. And these people, when they understand what they have to do, they can start working separately in different countries. They have their own groups. And when they say, like, after 3 months, let's see, and put everything together. When the meeting of ESC comes and say, oh, this is our steps now, how far we are, then it is endorsed. That's how we're going to do it. Don't just think that every time that we need to work on this one, we need to have a face-to-face meeting. we can start virtually and say, okay, now let's look at the training in Uganda, in Burundi. We share those curriculum. And people who have experts here who can review those programs and say, okay, now if we have these 4 programs, what are the minimum standards? What are the core courses that are needed for this clinical officer we want in EAC? Now we'll be working for EAC, preparing, thinking for a clinical officer for the EAC. If we are talking about another profession, it will be the same. It doesn't mean that every country can add on those minimum standards, but the minimum standard that can be accepted by all of us will be this. If we know, as the president of Burundi was saying, it's 3 years, and we assess the content. We look at the content they are having there. If they can be called themselves clinical officers, but do they have the same knowledge and skills like those who are in Kenya, or those in Rwanda, or those in Uganda? What is missing? If it is missing, they say, okay, you need to add this for you to be accepted. Or if you are not accepted, you keep yours, but when you want to go to work to Kenya, you have to undergo this course plus. That's how it works. That's what we call mutual recognition agreement. It's not equivalent. It's an agreement to say, okay, if I'm moving from Rwanda, from my training, that have been defined, that we agree, all of us, from my training, if I go to Uganda, do I have to sit for an exam? Do I have to do some extra course? Do I have to do some clinical settings or clinical placement? How many months? So this is what we'll be working this afternoon in our group discussions, is to put in place the roadmap. How are we going to do it? Who are going to be part of these teams? Well, this team is going to do that. We define exactly their role and responsibilities, and we put in place a time frame. Then we will be assessing and monitoring what is happening. Thank you very much.
The way forward is that we are breaking for lunch. We are 9 minutes behind the schedule, but we'll catch up with that. We will break for lunch. When we come back, we'll have 5 groups. Professor Emmanuel will guide the groups on the specific tasks. And then we shall have group presentation after that. So for each group, it will elect or nominate a chair and a rapporteur, because we must have presentations from all the 5 groups. So when you come back after lunch, you'll be told where you belong to. And then the task will be assigned by the professor and the registrar here.
I'm Alex Kachwano, medical clinical officer from Uganda. I'm part of Group 1. I am the one presenting on governance and academic programs. Undergraduate, on the side of undergraduate training. So we were given part 2, which is part of the standards. And the standard 1 is our area, governance and management. Under there, we had 1.1, which is preamble and justification. Throughout the document, we were looking for wherever there is medical, such that we are more specific with clinical medicine. So wherever we found the word medical, we changed to clinical medicine. And then at the first part, because we have, we crossed out school and its ties to its parent university, because some of the institutions, as you know, clinical medicine, we have at undergraduate level, we have the diploma and the bachelor's. So not necessarily that all diplomas are taught at university. So we had to do what? To also look at that. When we looked at wherever there is school, for instance, in Rwanda here, we later got to learn that actually it is not a separate institution, but some of them are run at just departments. within a university. So we were stocking with wherever there is school with department. So wherever there is school stock department, I will not again elaborate, I will just go down. Wherever there is university, we have been looking at institution because here it is a general word which can still mean any other higher institution of higher learning, which can provide a diploma, or a university which can give us degree. And these other institutions can be degree awarding if in that capacity. So we came to management, where we were looking at the management team specifically. And our first area was about a dean of that institution. For the other members, they had MBCHB, that one must have or should hold a Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery, or its equivalent as it was put. For us, we put Bachelor of Clinical Medicine and Community, or a diploma in clinical medicine and a higher national diploma. These ones are two together, because some institutions, for instance, they gave me a scenario in Kenya where we are having most of the institutions being led by people with the higher national diplomas. And so we are looking at establishing a standard, but with the hope of getting better with time. And so we have put the development, which is the degree, and then what is currently available, which is higher national diploma in other countries. As well, this person must have a postgraduate training, where in other countries we can have a postgraduate diploma as well as a degree where necessary and available. And this person must have, sorry, because of time, you see where there is 5, inside it is 3. Because of time, we're trying to rush. But there we meant 3. Initially it was 5 for MBCHB. Okay. Okay, fine. Okay. Reminded that we are, time bad. So some of these other ones, they are the same, where we are substituting the Bachelor of Medicine and Surgery with diploma, Bachelor of Clinical Medicine and Community Health, or a diploma where necessary. And so here it was that our major concern was that establishment, where we are saying that we may provide, because establishment and providing it as a standalone means it be in a separate, it must be a separate entity, which is not the case with many of the institutions providing us training in areas of anatomy, areas of medical physiology. In most cases, we are hosted under universities as a mere school or affiliation, just to provide the hands-on among others. So for this separate or standalone, we had to put it aside, and we said it should provide within those following areas of anatomy, which are necessary, anatomy among others. These are the ones, we have already looked at them. Universities being changed to institution, for that reason I've already talked about. And then our degree shall be degree title. Here we got this kind of mix-up, because this one is not only a degree, but we also have a diploma. And so here we have a diploma or degree. Education is starting at diploma, and it's going to degree and beyond. But profession definition, we are ending at degree, then the rest we can define as we proceed. Duration, for diploma, we looked at 3 years, and then for degree, we looked at 4 years minimum. Then the rest, all right, thank you. I think I've been reminded that actually we went extra mile. Probably it was becoming enjoyable based on the fact that we are eager to see this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Group 1, for good work. This is work in progress, so you'll have some time to finish your document maybe tomorrow. Group 4. Group 4.
So we were team 4, and we were talking about scope of practice for clinical medicine. So number 1, actually what they told us that we're going to borrow from what all other countries have done and then harmonize based on the training that they receive. So the scope of practice, number 1, the clinical medicine candidate has to be competent in communication and creation of rapport with the patient. Number 2, they should be able to do a full assessment, which includes history taking, physical examination, and to be able to prescribe basic investigations. This candidate should also be able to interpret basic results that they have prescribed. They should also be able to do clinical diagnosis that is appropriate to the patient's history. They should also be able to make a proper prescription after the assessment. They also should be able to manage the patient, and this includes follow-up, knowing when to refer, which is very important. This candidate also should be able to do health education at the end of it, because treatment alone is not enough. Yeah, so the scope of practice will also depend on the training. For example, we're looking at a diploma level and higher national diploma and bachelor's. So the scope of practice will depend on those 3 levels of training. So we're talking about management for bachelor's degree holder. They should be able to do minor surgeries, which include emergency appendectomy, C-sections, and amputations, only in emergency conditions. They should also be able to manage tropical conditions. They should be able to do antenatal clinics. They should be able to treat all conservative management. They should also be having leadership and management roles at a certain level, also again depending on country-specific job descriptions or policies. So at the healthcare center, they should also be able to admit patients and make follow-up. They should also be able to do community work, able to do research and teaching, supervision of students, undergraduate students, and teaching undergraduate programs at whatever level, whether at the health facility or even higher learning institutions. So these candidates also should be able to work at all levels as long as they remain within their scope of practice. And we had a question whereby in different countries, where should a diploma or a bachelor's level should go up to? Is it either only at the tertiary level, health centers, or primary or district levels? So this depends on the country-specific policies, and we leave it open for the group. If any compliments from my group, they're welcome. Otherwise, this is all we had prepared for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let us appreciate Group 4. I think we shall respond to those any queries or clarification tomorrow. Group 2.
The Registrar, Rwanda Allied Health Professionals Council, Major General Jean, the President Gakopa, the Chairperson for the Uganda Allied Health Examination Board, the Principal for the Gulu School of Clinical Medicine from Uganda, and everybody who is here. This is Group 2, and we've been tasked to go through the facilities and the standards for staffing norms. So we came up with a few things, and many of them actually were maintained, but we'll give a few hints on some of the things that we've been able to put across. We are saying that medical schools for clinical officers, because we are aware that there are medical schools that are training medicine and surgery and as well training clinical officers. So we are saying that medical schools for clinical officers shall have appropriate physical teaching facilities for the students commensurate with the number of staff as stipulated by both the Clinical Officers Council and the commissions responsible for higher education. And the physical resources have actually been maintained. However, we've come across a point that necessitates a clear-cut difference for outlining the appropriate equipped technical and laboratory and the skills laboratories, especially for training BSc clinical officers and the diploma clinical officers. And these include anatomy dissection and cadaver rooms. These may not apply to diploma clinical officers because many of the surgical procedures, except the minor ones, might be in reference with them. So, and then other disciplines like pathology and immunology, in Uganda, these have just been introduced, especially the pathology training. So that has also been maintained for the diploma clinical officers. And the others have actually been maintained. The minimum area, especially the offices for the staff, many of them have been maintained. The square meters that are appropriate to the medical and dental practitioners' councils, especially the reference document that we're using, have actually been maintained. Then the clinical officer resources for training, we are saying that there shall be a dedicated university stroke institution, because we are aware that there are universities and that there are also institutions training diplomas. So we've struck that universities stroke institutions, teaching hospitals approved by the Clinical Officers Council, and we've struck this by the Allied Health Professionals Council, because we are aware that as much as in Kenya there might be a Clinical Officers Council, but other East African countries are being regulated by what we call Allied Health Professionals Council through expressed active memorandums of understandings. Whereas universities, some universities might have teaching hospitals. There are institutions, especially training diploma clinical officers, that may not have teaching hospitals. So those will be required to have active memorandums of understanding with these hospitals. The academic staff, or what we call staffing norms, many of them have been maintained. And we went ahead to say that at least basic sciences staff stroke student ratios should be 1 to 25. And then for the clinical department staff to student ratio should be 1 to 10. And then we went ahead to stipulate some staffing, academic staffing qualifications, whereby we're saying that at least a diploma should be taught by a BSc clinical officer, and a BSc clinical officer should be taught by an MSc clinical officer or an equivalence. And then we went ahead to say that an MSc clinical officer should be taught by somebody who at least has a PhD. But above all these cadres should have a training in medical education. This should be a postgraduate diploma in medical education or a bachelor's degree in medical education. The rest of the other things were maintained. Thank you.
Yes, group 3. Sorry, yeah, we still have group 5. Is group 3 ready? Members of group 5? Group 5?
Policy for clinical officers. And under this, our group, our mighty group, group 5, we looked at that there should be a CPD. Allow me, I think there is a problem with all that has happened. But I believe if we were telecast it would be better, but it's okay. Well, that there should be a CPD policy guideline for each country. So we, by and large, we expect that in whatsoever as we are in the East African community, all what should govern us, that whichever policy that should be set up, we should have the guideline as stipulated below. Then the CPD guideline policy is expected to cover the following. So we try to detail the content that should cover the policy or the guideline in that. So we had, in our discussion, we had purpose and its content. That this purpose will clarify This clarifies the purpose of the CPD for career advancement and staying, and ideally staying current in the field. In this regard, we said the purpose of the CPD, is it for career advancement, most especially where there are some people after attending a CPD, they are given certificates, and under attendance, and maybe a job, you can present that certificate and can be accredited or considered for promotion. Yet other CPD are just to detail that this person really is remaining in service and is active by that matter. So when we looked at the scope, in this case, we defines who is covered by the policy, in that who are really entitled, who are meant to participate in this CPD. Partially, in our area of coverage, definitely they are the clinical officers. Then review process. Under the review process, we said for accreditation of the CPDs, providers or outlines the process for reviewing and approving CPD submission. That there should be review of the process of accreditation. Then also went further, say there should be approved activities. That in the CPD, activities specific for clinical officers, such as workshops, courses, conferences, and self-directed. This kind will entail that not every activity will be accredited in that regard, but there should be specific scope of coverage. These accreditations in terms of conference, where people, they are going to be given what? The points. Or in terms of line what? Present. We went further to look. We said mandatory CPD hours, there should be mandatory CPD hours for clinical officers to remain active in the register. That for any clinical officer to that should be covered. How individuals should document and track their CPD activities for verification. Here we believe that at the end of the year or in the renewal of your license, there should be something you should present for you to be for your license to be renewed, or for you to remain active in service as far as that is concerned. We looked at also support. This was the accredited body in offering this kind of CPD. We said mentions available resources, support mechanism, or funding for CPD activities. By and large, you cannot present this without support. Either can be the body or the committee that would have been set up to accredit this. They would require those resources to enable them continue implement to implement the CPD activities. So we looked at the consequences, and we said that this describes consequences for or failure to meet the CPD requirement. Within the point prescribed. That means either the license cannot be renewed or otherwise, as will be detailed by the CPD committee. Under reporting, we said specifies how and when individuals should report completed CPD activities. But of course, this one by the tracking of the document of the records will show that this person really attended and accumulated the points. Sometimes we will also continue with the online registrations for those ones who have attended. Monitoring and evaluation could not be avoided. So this one describes how the effectiveness of the CPD policy would be monitored and evaluated for potential improvement. Of course, there are challenges. So that has been brought on board. That is and evaluation. Where you have achieved well, you note. handle this differently. We shall, with a rich group that is from all the East African community. But specifically, say there should be an internship guideline for each country. So under harmonization, it may depend on the policies of a particular country, but if we are all in the same kind of East African community, it can be the same. But we said under certain policies, some countries run them differently. And in this, it should be catered for, the internship should be catered into the curriculum so that the student completes their internship training while still at school. We looked at, our chairman gave a reference of Uganda, that in many cases, majority of our students in Uganda complete their course together with what? The internship. He gave a lot of advantages in terms of saving resources, and he actually said one professor accredited it that's the best way because these students are really exposed to the scenarios. So the internship guideline or policy is expected to cover the following. We said the purpose. In this case, we said it clarifies the purpose for the internship, not just going for internship without really knowing the root cause for it. Then the scope defines who is covered by the guideline. Most especially, of course, this one is in bracket, that the clinical officers are in that regard. Then review of the process for accreditation of internship, outline the process for reviewing and approving. Of course, these logo books come into play for evaluation and some forms that can help in terms of that. Then we said approve the activities, said internship activities specific for clinical officers. Of course, this is the gist of the matter for today. And we looked at the requirements that mandatory internship hours for clinical officers to remain complete, to complete their course. There should be hours that some does as covered to really be accurate that you are done with the course and therefore you are allowed to go and complete that. Documentation was specific, as we can see, that specify how individuals should document and track their internship activities for validation. Support, this could not be avoided, and mentions available resources, support mechanisms, funding for internship activities. When these students are going for internship or placement, how are they supported? Of course, there are those gloves and legs that the hospitals where these students are placed do require. Then we looked at also the consequences. That this one describes consequences for non-compliance or failure to meet the internship. So this student dodged the placement. Then what is next? Therefore, we said, no, we must have all those details. If not qualify, or a refer for a year, as administrators can put it clearly in that. So just a few or one point, say the reporting. This specifies how and when individuals should report completed internship. This one will be evaluated from the records that they will have put across. Then accredited internship sites. We said, one of our seniors said that not every site would be taken for placement because there are some places or hospitals that may not have the necessary equipment for our students to qualify or to qualify with good knowledge and skills. Therefore, we said there should be a body that should supervise continuously and really have our sites best for our students. With those few words said, I request monitoring and evaluation to be the last, and that describes how effectiveness of the internship guideline would be monitored and evaluated for potential. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Group 5. And I want to believe that all these presentations will be given to Oliver so that we have one document. So the last group, Group 3.
My name is Bob Spencer from Kenya. I'm presenting on behalf of Group 3. And we looked at affairs. And as you can see, we had a number of items on the student affairs. So after looking at the student affairs, we did not add anything or removed anything. So we recommended that this can be adopted as it is into our document. So that was standard number 5. We go to standard number 6. On program monitoring and evaluation. So here in clause A, we recommended to replace medical school by clinical medicine departments stroke school. But the rest of the statement which says that it shall have a policy on quality assurance which should address monitoring and evaluation systems, including student feedback mechanisms, remains the same. On clause number B, which says the medical school shall prepare an annual monitoring and evaluation report for the program. There shall be continuous review of program with formal reviews at the end of every program cycle. We recommended to replace medical school by clinical medicine departments or school. And then part C, we left it as it is. There should be external quality assurance mechanisms in all medical schools, like ISO or equivalent. Then part D, we replaced the word national medical councils with relevant national clinical council to replace national medical council. And on part E, we recommended 5 years of accreditation instead of 7 years because most of the programs will be taking up to 4 years and 5 years including internship. So we thought a 5 years accreditation period would be appropriate for us. And then about regular performance of appraisal for the faculty, we recommended that instead of saying regular appraisal, then the appraisal should be annual, just as it's usually done for most institutions. Then we move to the last standard, which was on research and innovation. The opening statement says that medical school shall show evidence of promoting quality research and innovation. So we recommended to replace medical school by clinical medicine department stroke school. And the recommendations under that will remain as it is, apart from part C. Maybe you can just scroll a bit. Part C. Yeah, part C that says a school shall develop the capacity of the academic staff and students for grant writing and carry out research. We do notice that most of the research at the primary level, where a bigger percentage of the clinical officers are concentrated, is operational research. So we sought to put, under this clause of research, we sought to put more emphasis on operational research. So those are the few recommendations we made on the document. Thank you.
Very much, Group 3. And at this juncture, I want to take this opportunity to welcome everybody. To thank everybody. It has been a long day. I can see the hall is still full. So I wish to thank you for your patience, for your contribution, for your cooperation for this day one. It's a lot of work that we have covered. And I hope we'll be able to follow the program as it is for tomorrow. We apologize, we are a bit beyond the expected time. And I wish to invite Professor Emmanuel to say a few words. And then after that, we shall just have a word of prayer. We close the day. We go for coffee. Just to remind you, tomorrow we meet at 8:30 so that we are ready to have a free afternoon. I hope all of us have registered for the tour. It's important that we work as a team. Thank you so much for your cooperation, and God bless.
Yes. Thank you very much. We should give an applause to our MC today. Served us right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are closing towards the end, and so sorry that we are keeping you here up to this time. But we all know that you left the comforts of your beds and the homes to come for work. You didn't come for easy life. So bear with us. Remember, the chief organizer is a senior military officer. So you either budge or you fall down. And thank you very much for the good work done. From the beginning, and I'm aware that we are with many senior colleagues around, we note that we have come to an understanding that we need to have a standardized and a harmonized clinical officer, practitioner, trainee that we want in the region, that can move from Kenya to Tanzania to Sudan to Somalia to Rwanda and so on and so forth. In order to have this, there are some prerequisites. We might have started from the guideline or from the natural framework that we would want to have first, but we are aware that we don't need a phase for needs assessment at this juncture because we know what we want. And we shall just go for the jugular, which is why you're trying to go from what is taking place already. Stakeholder engagement. Asked about the role of the associations, the role of unions, and so many other potential. This is the time that we are going to engage each and everyone to buy into the standardization and harmonization, but above it all, to have an officer that can move across the borders, work anywhere he or she wants, without any impediments. And for us to achieve that, it will depend on each and everyone's need and desire. So we've been trying to see if we can set from the medical and dental councils of the region. We believe, and overall, we note that what was done is generally acceptable and applicable to the clinical officers and can be borrowed and implemented. Would I be wrong if I assumed that? I think we would be right. We've talked about the 8 standards, and I guess a few issues would probably remain to be harmonized and ironed out. From what we have heard from colleagues, I think we don't have any standalone school of clinical officer school in the region. They are all departments in different schools, right? Okay. Wonderful. Because next phase to part 2. Very good. Okay. So that's fine. So, and the heads of those schools are deans, right? You call them deans? Oh, principals. Okay, very good. So what I was talking about is that even the wording must get harmonized, such that what you call in Kenya should be similar to what we call it in Uganda. I know there are laws behind those establishments, but when you're talking about standardization and harmonization, there should be reciprocal recognition of the names talked about across the practitioners. so we saw the monitoring and evaluation, and I guess we all get involved into such. Now, critical part and junctures. What we have been doing is just a test of whether we could implement what has been done. This actually has a checklist that goes with it and has been shared too. We've seen that there were struggles in the CPD component, in the in-service part of these guidelines, particularly when we are talking about the in-service. Because it is very difficult to legislate or to standardize and harmonize the in-service part of it. But I like what I saw, because when we discussed, I think we were talking to the converted. So it is very easy to put a framework in place to understand that these clinical officers will continue upgrading their levels of knowledge through continuous professional development or continuous education. So that framework is in place. My only query is, do we need individual countries putting up frameworks, or we need some kind of framework that each member country can follow? What our colleagues presented, they seem to imply that every country will have a CPD. Every country has, actually. But what we are looking at now at this level is having an EAC level instruction, recommendation, or guide to say this is a framework under which continuous professional development will be done in the East African Community region. So maybe that is something that we shall correct. And we discussed at length what constitutes a CPD activity. How do we weigh a CPD activity? How does it get accredited? What is the accreditation process? And I think that is already, it's a detail that lies in our different CPD policies. And we agreed, I guess, the guideline. So we can only put guidelines in place, and then either by the East African Legislative Assembly or by our respective ministries of health. So the organizers of this workshop, you will allow us maybe between 5 and 10 minutes to agree on the way forward now. We've discussed and we have agreed, we have tested the waters. We see that these documents can be adaptable. So now we need to agree the next activities. What tasks do we intend to do? Who is going to do what? And what are the timelines? Because it is one thing and talk, but it's another thing to have a working document. So, any recommendations before we yes, please.
I read the heading, Harmonization of Training. From Uganda, I had compiled all the course units which are in the diploma program, Diploma of Clinical Medicine and Community Health. And I also compiled all the course units which are in Bachelor of Clinical Medicine and Community Health. So I'm suggesting maybe tomorrow we get some time to see if these course units are harmonized. Because at least if we are going to have the same clinical officer in Rwanda, in Burundi, in Kenya, these course units should cut across at least like 70% of those course units should be the same in all the curriculum. That's my proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I appreciate, and of course, the guidance that we need to and where we need to move forward. This we had, and we have been, we shared the experience from our different country, and the practice what we are doing. And I have realized, I can just mention, for instance, in our country, we have what we call at least the common training, whereby, where do they start? We have the BSc and the diploma. So those are the common. But we have also scaled in terms that the higher diploma can, the diploma can do higher diploma. Like now, Uganda training as different courses, like anesthesia or other reproductive health, and those we have scaled them to call them higher diploma so that it become a progressive training. So the primary training is there, it is now give you a latitude to do the higher diploma. But now we have also established where the degree now, after starting training degree, they can scale this to masters. Now we have taken the higher diploma and come up with a curriculum for, so that we can be able now to face it. Now we have a difference where now those higher diploma in the country like Uganda, they call them, actually like it's more of a course, which for us it's not a course. So that is a higher where now we need at least to look into what is the best practice and how can we approach it and harmonize it so that you don't introduce very many courses, because if you are a regulatory, you must be able to regulate a certain profession. You cannot introduce very many courses that you are, and you call yourself a regulator to the same. If that's
you need, that's why we talked about the scope of practice. The scope of practice is informed by the content covered in class, and this content covered in class is what we are trying to standardize and harmonize. When we are talking about the next key activities to be performed, which I think we shall give a proposal, and then you will have liberty to discuss and agree. Don't just discuss. Discuss to agree on the tactical roadmap. Core curriculum is very important because remember, you're going to regulate the schools that are already in existence, but you're going to regulate schools that will come as well. And when the regulatory framework is in place, when there is an instruction in place, you will definitely go and say, look, we are coming to check on Fort Portal Clinical Officers Training Center. The curriculum you're implementing for a bachelor's degree or whatever higher diploma degree, I don't know how we call it, is probably out of sync with the core curriculum we have developed. And do you intend to develop 5 core curricula? I doubt. Maybe you need to see how you can graduate. Yes, 95% of the public health problems are covered at the low level, but you want them to be covered by somebody that is like an associate clinical officer, or you want a clinical officer that is competent, confident, and able to solve some of those problems. So the choice is yours. Do you want to harmonize at a bachelor's level, at a diploma level? Again, I think that will be a topic for discussion and agree, such that as you prepare for the core curriculum, which is one of the key activities that must be done, you will have a basis based on your discussion and understanding. So since I'm between you and your break tea and the fatigue, I would like to say thank you very much. And we should have a session where we shall identify some questions or some key activities that would need to be looked at in detail, and how and when to be put in, to be implemented. Otherwise, you do not want another physical meeting like this to just say, no, in Kigali we are talking about 1, 2, 3. So thank you very much, and God bless you. So I would like to request Madam President, wavuze ko mwitwa Colombe wadusengera none ga yewe yego.
In the a word of prayer, please. Ko turangije ibikorwa amahoro uno musi wa mbere waduhaye ivyiyumviro vyiza uduha gukora twumvikana no kumva ibintu kumwe. Turagushimiye rero. None rero turakwiragije tugiye gusezera, tugiye kurangiza uno munsi. Turakwiragije ujane natwe aho tugiye kugenda mu mabarabara, uturinde, hanyuma tugarukane ngaha amahoro ejo kugira ngo ibikorwa turimo turakora bigende neza. Urakoze. In the name of Jesus we pray.